So let's see, the next important topic is the classification of memory. So in classification of memory, you should remember this hierarchy. Okay, so basically there are two types of memory, primary memory and secondary memory. And in primary memory, there are two types of memory, random access memory and read-only memory. Don't worry, we are going to see detail in the upcoming sessions. And just remember, there are four types of RAM: SRAM, static RAM, dynamic RAM, synchronous dynamic RAM, and double data rate RAM. Okay, similarly, read only memory, there are three types: PROM, EPROM, EEPROM. Coming to the secondary storage, magnetic storage, optical storage, and solid state storage. And in magnetic storage we have three types. In optical storage, again commonly these are the three types: CD, DVD, and Blu-ray. Whereas in solid state, these are commonly secondary memory used in the computers. Apart from these, there are certain other memory like CPU registers, cache, and virtual memory that we are going to discuss in the upcoming slides. Okay. So student, remember, memory is the storage space where data and instructions are stored temporarily or permanently. Okay, it is basically like a box which stores the data and instructions either temporarily or permanently. And just remember, all the electronic components which are residing inside the computer are made up of semiconductor, mainly silicon. Okay, this type of question we have seen in RRB JE. Okay, so all the electronic components are made up of semiconductor material, silicon. Coming to the next one is the categories. So we have seen that it can store data temporarily or permanently, based on which there are two categories specifically: primary memory, or which is also called the main memory. Afterward, the second one is the secondary memory or auxiliary memory. Okay, so these are the two types of memory which are commonly asked in the exam. So coming to the primary memory or the main memory, the first thing you should remember why it is called the primary memory or the main memory. Why it is called the main memory? Because it is the first memory that CPU access directly to perform any task. Okay, so whenever he wants some information or data, it is the first memory he will be going to look. Okay, so CPU will access directly the primary memory first. Afterward, it is going to access the secondary memory. Okay, so based on which there are two types of primary memory: ROM and RAM. Okay, RAM and ROM. So just remember, ROM as a word itself says read-only memory. Read-only means it is be used only for reading, okay, not for the writing. And since it is read-only memory, so it will be non-volatile. Generally in exam you will have these type of question where he is going to ask you related to volatile and non-volatile. And remember, ROM, read-only memory, is non-volatile. Non-volatile means what? That data remains in the device even after the power off. That's why it is read-only memory, right? So since data will not be going to erased after power is off, once power is off, data remain off, it is volatile. Okay, volatile as a word also knows that it will not remain in the memory. But in the non-volatile, data remain even after the electricity is off. Okay, so that's why a read-only memory are used to store the firmware, basically the BIOS, which have booting instruction in it. Okay, and these are the classes of the ROM: PROM, EPROM, EEPROM. Okay, so in exam he can ask you the non-volatile or volatile related question from this particular chapter. Coming to the RAM, as the word suggests, random access memory, and it is a volatile memory. Why it is called volatile? Because data is lost when power is off. So if you turn off the PC, data will be lost, whatever the inside in the RAM. Okay, and it is basically used to store the data temporary. Okay, whereas ROM is used to store the data permanently, and RAM is used to during the execution of the program. And there are 4 types of RAMs: SRAM, DRAM, SDRAM, and DDRM. Okay, coming to the type of RAM, the first RAM is the SRAM. The full form you should remember, RAM we already seen, it is random access memory, and the word S stand for the static. Okay, why it is called static? Because there is no refresh needed. What do you mean by refresh? There are no component in it for which refreshing is required. Okay, so if you see the dynamic RAM, you can appreciate it much better. The dynamic RAM basically uses the capacitor. So in exam, if we ask which of the memory uses the capacitor, your answer should be dynamic RAM, DRAM. And since, as you know, capacitor are the elements or the electronic circuits which store the data in the form of charges, so over the period of time this capacitor may dissipate, and because of which periodic refreshing may be required. Okay, so this DRAM basically use the capacitor and need periodic refreshing to get the memory. Okay, the next one is SDRAM. It is similar to dynamic RAM, so capacitor will be there, but one more thing has come into SDRAM. They are synchronous. How synchronous? It is synchronous with the CPU. So what is the advantage of having synchronous with the CPU? So if I am synced with the CPU, I can have wait time for reading and writing operation will be reduced. Okay, so in this way it is faster than DRAM. Okay, so SDRAM is faster than DRAM because it is sync with the CPU. Okay, the next one, nowadays everybody is talking about DDRM, that is double data RAM, and it is similar to SDRAM, but the thing is that per clock cycle it transfers the data twice, so the rate of transfer is doubled, so it is called DDR, double data rate RAM. Okay, and nowadays DDR5 are used in the modern system. Okay, let's see. The next is ROM. So as you can see in the figure, so this chip is basically a ROM, that is read-only memory, and as the word suggests, PROM means programmable ROM. Once it is programmed, it cannot be writing again. Okay, whereas if you have EPROM, that is erasable programmable ROM, it is can be used from programming, but it can be erased with the help of UV light. So in exam, if we ask which of the ROM is used to erase with the UV light, your answer should be EPROM, erasable PROM. Okay, and sometimes this EPROM is also known as UV PROM. Okay, so EPROM can be erased, but PROM is not erasable. Whereas one more type is there, it is EEPROM. Instead of UV light, you are using the electricity for erasing the programmable ROM. So it is called EPROM. So from ROM, you should remember the full form of each and every type of ROM.